Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another video. This is the fourth video that I'm recording in this particular series, which is called Rabbit Holes and Rodeos, which kind of traces my MBA journey at the National University of Singapore. The intent of this video is to focus on one of the biggest questions that people ask or think about when they're kind of starting their MBA journey, which is how do you kind of justify the cost of doing the MBA, particularly if you're coming from, you're moving countries to a new location, you've got to pay for higher living costs, and you're going to give up on your, normal earning that you would have during the course of those 18 or 24 months. And the intent of kind of doing this video is just to kind of show you how to think about it in more of a logical manner, or rather how did I think about it as I went on this particular journey. So there's a lot of things to think about. Typically, this is the elephant in the room, or rather it's more like a monster that everyone's afraid of, and it's not the cute cookie monster that we used to see in Sesame Street. This is like the MBA money monster that everyone is really afraid of. And I think the way to kind of think of this is to do it in a very structured manner. So just putting on my consultant hat, essentially what you need to do is you need to kind of start out with thinking about what are the schools that you're looking at. If you haven't watched the other videos, I think it's just a good plug. Just to give you context of, even before you start thinking about particular schools, you actually need to think about, are you going to do a part-time MBA? Are you going to do a full-time MBA? Once you've decided that, the next logical step is kind of to decide, where do you actually want to do it? Do you want to do it in your home country? Do you want to go out? If you're going out, you need to also think about what's the continent you want to end up in, what's the country you want to end up in, and then eventually also think about the city where you will be in, and how does that match with your inherent personality, goals, and your after MBA ambitions. And I think once all of this is kind of sorted, essentially the next part of this comes to the money question, right? And when it comes to the money question, I think the way to think of this is, firstly, think about the total academic tuition that you would pay. So some of the American MBA programs, for instance, have a very high academic tuition. Now that doesn't mean that you just cross them out at the very start, right? But once you kind of start out with thinking about these different MBA programs, what you then need to kind of do is create a very simple Excel where you kind of put in the academic tuition, you kind of put in the duration of the MBA program, then you kind of add in your current salary that you would make, multiply it by the duration, which essentially gives you a context of how much money you would be losing out. So let's say if there's an MBA program which is for 18 months, so it's 18 into whatever you make every month pre-MBA. And if it's a 24-month program, then you need to essentially multiply it by 24. I think the next thing that you need to add on to that is the living cost. So if you're in your home country in the same city, then essentially that turns out to be zero. So if you're doing a part-time MBA, you're already paying those living costs, so it's not an added burden on you. But if you're doing a full-time MBA, moving to a new location, you need to add in living costs, which would include your rental, it would include your utilities, it would include areas such as your eating out expenses, partying expenses, travel expenses, and so on. So what this kind of starts giving you is a very comprehensive indication of how much money you would be spending in that particular city based on the MBA program that you do choose. Now, once you kind of have this, what you then need to do is you need to also think about what is going to be your post-MBA salary. And the way to do this is, a good gauge is to look at the Financial Times rankings, and that'll give you an indication. Also look at the school reports, which kind of come out with these numbers, and then obviously discount it. So Financial Times obviously kind of projects these numbers with a very high level of there's inputs that have gone in from the MBA schools into this. These are also I think post MBA 3-year median wages, so it's not necessary that everyone's going to make that level, so you need to discount that. So a good indication is to discount it by about 30 to 40% in my opinion. You can use different gauges to estimate what that salary would be like. And once you have this number, essentially try to use that number, subtract a certain percentage of your living costs from that post MBA salary, and then kind of divide the total cost of your MBA, which includes not only the academic tuition, but it also includes the elements around your living costs, anything that you would have spent during that particular time, and then divided by the post MBA salary that you would be getting. And this will kind of come out in terms of months. So what you'll actually get is an indication of how many months would it take to kind of pay back your you know, all the investment that you've done, and then eventually turn it into an additional source of income for you as you kind of pay off that the loan that you've taken, if you do end up taking one. And what you'll see is, I'm going to like pull up a very high level comparison. So what I've done is I've taken INSEAD, I've taken the NUS full-time MBA, I've taken the NUS part-time MBA, and I've taken ISB, which is the Indian School of Business MBA. And what I've done is I've drawn a comparison, and what you'll see is that most good MBA programs, especially the ones which are in the top 50, typically pay for themselves in a certain amount of time. If you start looking at, let's say, the top 100 MBA programs, even those have an element that they can actually pay you back the money pretty fast, assuming you end up getting a good scholarship for those schools. And essentially, the outcome of all of this is that when you're thinking of your MBA journey as I did for mine, that decision should not be weighed by whether you actually have the money today or not. Most financial institutions, there's a lot of companies that would typically be more than happy to kind of fund your MBA at very low interest costs, and once you end up finishing your degree, it's quite easy to pay them. And I think that the decision should not be weighed by money, and neither should it be weighed by what your parents think, what your girlfriend or boyfriend thinks, what your partner thinks, what your mentors think. It should, at the end of the day, be weighed by what is it that you truly want from that particular MBA. And if at the end of the day it's kind of going to be dependent on what you really want, and it should be focused on what is it that truly drives you. And in the end, it's all, like I always say, it's all about building a better life for yourself. So if you feel that it's going to be very stressful, or you feel that it's not the right thing for you, then it's absolutely okay to not pursue it. And it took me a long time. I started on this MBA journey immediately after my undergrad, so I actually started out in 2015, and I have been like trying to get onto the MBA bandwagon since then, and it was only in 2021 which is when I actually started and pursued this. So all good things in life actually take a certain amount of time, and if you're willing to wait for it, not only will you end up pursuing the right kind of academic degree, but it will also give you the right kind of bump, or that next level growth in your career that you are pursuing. So if you found this video helpful, do like, share, subscribe, and do feel free to drop me a message if you have any follow-up questions, or drop in any comments. I'll be more than happy to respond to them. There's also the link to the LinkedIn post, which kind of has a bunch of slides, as well as my thought process as to how I went on kind of thinking about finances when I undertook my MBA journey from NUS. Until next time, thank you so much for listening in. See ya. Bye.